Ari Hest. I'm Chrissi Boland.
That's a clapper.
And we are songwriters. We're professional musicians, what we do for a living. And we're here to share some of what we do with you guys today. So if it's cool with you, we thought we'd start by playing you guys a song of our own. So Ari's going to play a song that he wrote. I'm going to play a song that I wrote. And we're going to go from there. Is that cool if we start that way?
Sure. Yeah.
Are you guys okay with recordings?
Yes.
Please, yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Let's do it. That's what that camera's for, I suppose.
I mean,
Yeah, that's fine too. That's fine. Dead and driving in the dark, we don't know what we're headed for. Like lighters flicking off sparks, we've been counting on a little more. Dead and working every day, wondering how we're gonna get through. And it's how we're gonna, we don't wanna play along just to make do. Well, I don't know what you want, I don't know what you want, but we've been dead and driving in the dark. Tell me how we gonna make a mark. My philosophy, the ways that I have found to see things I have not seen, the bright enough to turn me around. Surely it's a waste to think that someone's gonna carry us out. Dead and working every day, every night we're gonna get through. And the time will go, we don't wanna play along just to make do. Yeah, I don't know what you want, no, I don't know what you want, but we've been dead and driving in the dark. Tell me how we gonna make a mark. My philosophy, the new ways that I have found to see things I have not seen, bright enough to turn me around. Surely it's a waste to think that someone's gonna carry us out, carry us out. Dead and driving, dead and driving. We don't know what we're headed for, no. We are dead and driving in the dark, dead and driving in the dark. And there ain't no way to make a mark. We are dead and driving in the dark, dead and driving in the dark. And there ain't no way to make a mark. It ain't no way to make a mark. No. It ain't no way to make a mark. Okay, cool.
Welcome, guys.
Yes, I'm Ari, this is Chrissi. We just started, I just played one of my songs, she's going to do one of hers now, and we'll kind of get started after that. But Chrissy's going to go from here.
All right.
Every beating heart there is a story, a secret sanctuary of a life. keeping watch on all the lies before me. They hold to the light. Everyone's a stranger till you say hello. I'm so glad you said hello to me. 'Cause in your eyes I see my future's brighter. So it will be. I was living in the dark, hope scattered and gone. The light was lost. You turned me around and aimed me toward the dawn. What's the use in hiding from the moment? That ever gets you is nowhere. And in the end you wonder, was I useful? You take me there. Someday when I'm gone, someone might miss me. They throw a party in my name. 'Cause I'll be out among the stars just dancing. You do the same. Do the same. I was living in the dark, hope scattered and gone. The light was lost. You turned me around and aimed me toward the dawn. If there's a cloud, you're the silver lining. I'm full of doubt, but you still believe. We all want to go where the sun is shining. Before you were so hard to conceal, I was living in the dark. My hope scattered and gone. The light was lost. You turned me around and aimed me toward the dawn. The light was lost. You turned me around and aimed me toward the dawn.
Thanks, guys. So those are two examples of songs that each of us wrote as songwriters independently on our own. We write songs together also when we can. Co-writing is a very cool thing. But just to get us started, does everybody have one of these? Yeah, you need one.
How many of you guys have written songs before? Okay, good.
Awesome. Yeah, and who's brand new to songwriting? Just getting started. Right on.
All right.
Very cool. That's great. All right, so check it out. We wrote a bunch of things down on this page that we just want to go through review. And as we go, we're going to give examples, and we want to throw it back to you. It's an open conversation. If anything comes to your mind at any point while we're talking, please ask. Raise your hand, shout it out, whatever it is. This is just an open conversation for the whole entire time. All right, cool. So just starting with part one, right? How do you get started? For those of you who have written songs before, give us some examples. How do you get started? Shout something out. What's the first thing you do? Double
Start
shout.
writing.
Say it again?
Start writing.
That's right. Start writing. Yes, sir.
Record it.
Yes, record it. Make a voice memo of it. Great. What else? How do you start? Yes.
Usually before I start writing, I kind of figure out a concept.
Yep.
What I'm gonna write around
Yep.
subject.
Yep.
So I can write sporadically.
Right. Great. Love it. Yes.
Since I have no musical talent, I usually fish for some kind of music or something. To
Okay.
write.
No, wait. What do you mean by that? What do you mean you have no
Like,
music
since I don't know how to play any instruments.
Okay, that doesn't mean you don't have musical talent though. I know what you're saying though. So you do it on computer, or do you like make a beat or?
I fish on the internet, SoundCloud or Bandcamp.
Yep.
Listen to other people's musical composures and then
Yep.
write my own lyrics.
Got it. Cool. Awesome. Right on. Anybody else? Was somebody else raising their hand? Yes.
I get inspiration from other people, either artists or like my friends and
Yeah.
stuff, and then I ask for opinions. And,
That's great. Ari and I do the same thing.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the points here is that there's a lot of different ways to come up with that, the beginnings of the song. Everybody has a different way. I personally, generally what happens to me is I'll get an idea for a melody first more than anything else. I come from a musical family. Some of you may know my father was a professor here for a bit. So the first thing that usually comes to mind for a song for me is something that just kind of comes to my head, like a 2-second vocal line or something that doesn't have words yet. But everybody's different. Some people write down lyrics first and then they worry about the music later. Some people do it all at once. You can do it in a lot of different ways.
Yeah, so the whole point of it is exactly what Ari was just saying, and what a lot of you have thrown out there to us already is there's no, this is how you have to do it, this is how you have to get started. You're an artist, you're the creator, so you do whatever works for you. And when you find that vibe, whatever works for you, that's your vibe, that's what you stay with. So whatever it is that works for you to get started, you want to stick with that. On this sheet here, we wrote down something called brain dumping. That's literally like let your brain open up and dump out. Don't judge your ideas, don't judge your thoughts. Record them, write them down, whatever it is. Just get it out first, you know? Dump it all out first and you can edit it from there. But that's a great way to start.
And specifically with that, the first thing that comes out of your brain, at least in my experience when it comes to songwriting, maybe that first melody idea, like I said, if I come up with something in my head, the first melody idea might be good, but what comes out after that, the first draft of everything, is usually not very good. It's usually like, I just haven't quite captured how to fit the melody with the lyric, or there's something off about it. And if you're not careful and you're not confident in your ability to, through time, get to the point where the song is going to be good, you might just be like, you know what, this idea sucks. I'm going to go watch TV or something else. Like, this is not working. So you have to have confidence, like Chrissy's saying. Once you have an idea on paper or on a voice memo or whatever, even if it's bad, you know that you're going to be able to rework it.
Exactly. It's like you're allowing your brain to just open up and let this stuff come out, whether it's good or bad. You're giving yourself that freedom. If you start judging yourself and judging your ideas before they even have a chance to develop yet, you don't know what you're missing. You might be missing out on some incredible thing. It's going to take a week or a month or a year to develop. So what we're trying to tell you is, let it all come out at first, don't judge it. If you don't love it at first, yeah, go watch TV, go do something, go hang out, whatever, come back to it. But let it all come out first. All the great creative minds of the world will agree that everyone as an artist or a creator is judgmental of their own stuff right off the bat, right? How many times do you create something and you're like, this is no good, it sucks, forget it, and you just forget about it, right? I'm super guilty of that. We do that all the time. It's also a great idea to bounce these ideas off of other people. There's examples all over the music history and the music business of some of the most popular songs ever recorded where the artist thought it was terrible and another artist or a record executive said, no, I think this is good, and it was like went on to sell 40 million copies or something. That story is all over the music business. You never know. Give it a chance, okay? So the next thing we have here on the paper is, can you create a movie for your listener in 3 minutes or so? I'm giving the 3-minute example. Why don't you
Well,
talk a little about why
pop
that?
songs tend to be, you don't have to write pop songs, but pop songs tend to be, I guess, in the range of maybe 2 minutes and 30 seconds to 4 minutes or somewhere in there. And we'll get to the sort of pop formulas as we go on today. But creating a movie, you probably have certain thoughts on how to create images, you know, that you want to share. Yeah.
Yeah, it's we're gonna get to this, but it's everything from the music, the melody, and the lyrics, right? All those three things together, when they're working in synergy, the listener should be able to visually, as well as audibly, see this movie going on in the mind, right? That's what we want to create for somebody. That's the goal, right? So how do we do that? That's what we're going to be getting to. Right now, I just want to throw it out to you guys really quick, since we're going to talk about. Ari was just talking about pop music, but there's so many different styles of music. What are some styles of music that everybody here is writing in? Just throw some out. I want to put them up on the board.
Blues.
Say again?
Blues.
Blues.
The blues.
All right.
Love it. What else?
Hip hop.
Hip hop. Great.
Electronic.
Electronic.
Prog rock.
Rock, rock.
Yeah, I'm going to put EDM under electronic. You said prog rock?
Rock. Progressive.
Yeah, love it.
R&B.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. What else?
Metal.
Say again?
Metal.
Hell yeah.
Come on, sister.
Say again?
Pop.
Yeah, that's right. Pop. Pop, it's funny, like through the decades, through the generations, right? Pop is like the mysterious category that can be any one of these categories at any time. You know, if we talk about the 60s, pop was something else. If we talk about the 70s, it was something else. The 90s, 5 years ago compared to now, it's always shifting. So pop is a mysterious category that's really cool to get into. That's great. Any other styles that people are writing in? Once again?
Rock.
Right on.
Country.
That's right.
Country.
Alternative.
Psychedelic.
Yeah.
Jazz.
Thank you.
Oh yeah, we meant jazz.
Yes,
Funk? Funk?
Delic. Okay, what else am I missing?
Funk.
Alternative.
Yeah, funk. Alternative, yes.
Bluegrass.
Yep. Thank you.
I'm sorry, do you guys know the song, The Trouble
Alright,
with
too
Us?
bad. Say again?
You know the song The Trouble with Us? By-
Trouble with Us. Who's that by?
I got the trouble with us.
It sounds familiar. Who's it by?
Never mind. I'll get back to it.
We'll look it up. Thank God for the internet.
Don't you would know.
What other styles? Any other styles that we're writing in or we're thinking about writing? Yeah.
Like folk rock.
Sure thing. Anybody else? No? Alright, I'm gonna throw it up here. Classical.
Oh, reggae.
Say again?
Reggae.
Yeah. Yeah.
Reggaeton.
Flamenco.
Yeah, ton. Flamenco. Wow, alright. Good. It's a lot of genres of music. Alright, so if I go across the board, just real quick, because this is fun, it sparks ideas, it sparks inspiration. Funk artists that we're feeling.
What are you
Prince.
asking? Oh.
Yes, say again?
I
What
didn't.
funk,
Yes.
what funk
Oh,
artists
okay.
do you know?
Jimi Hendrix.
Yep, Jimi Hendrix. Jimi Hendrix can fall into many categories, everything from jazz to rock to fusion to funk, psychedelic, of course. Okay? George Clinton, that's right. Thank you. Earth, Wind, and Fire, yes. Also, falling under many categories. Earth, Wind, and Fire was everything from pop to jazz to R&B, of course, there's so many different things. Stevie Wonder, same thing. Across the board, every category, including country music, including world music, Stevie can fall under. It's amazing. How about, if we're going to rock, who are the kings of rock?
Linkin Park.
Okay, Linkin Park, that's a great contemporary example. Yes? Zeppelin,
AC/DC.
that's right. We just lost Lemmy. Lemmy was from Motorhead,
Yeah.
right? Who else?
Kiss.
Kiss. Did you say Kiss?
Beatles.
Elvis.
Great. Yes. Elvis, also a genre crosser. Let's go to R&B. Who's the king of R&B? Whitney said it was Bobby Brown, but I would beg
R.
to differ. R. Kelly's one. Yeah.
Michael Jackson.
Michael Jackson, great. King of pop also.
Boyz II Men.
Yeah, hello.
Oh yeah.
So good. What's that?
Mary J. Blige.
Yes, Mary J. Blige. Now let's take it back. Those are great contemporary examples. Let's take it back. Marvin Gaye, I'm gonna say.
Yeah.
Okay. Who else?
Macy Gray.
Great. Great crossover too. Jazz and pop, but she was R&B. She had all kinds of things going on. Very interesting artist. How about if we go to hip hop? Who are the kings, original kings of hip hop? Say again?
Run DMC.
Run DMC. Yep.
Biggie
Well,
Smalls.
Careless one?
Yes.
What's his name? Daddy Kane? Big Daddy Kane?
Yep, Big Daddy Kane.
Ice Cube.
Yes, Ice Cube, NWA, Tupac, Biggie, all those guys. Say again?
Rakim.
Yep.
Jay-Z, man.
Black Hymns.
Jay-Z, Rakim. Yeah, all great contemporary and early examples too. Nas, great example. Are we including Kanye in this?
No.
Yeah.
No.
Thank you guys.
We can put him under other.
That's good.
Other.
He can be tucked away under that, like we don't talk about that category. Okay, cool. All right, just a couple of more, because it gets the thoughts going here. If we're gonna go to alternative, Green Day, great. What else?
Kings of
Foo
Leon.
Fighters.
Yep, Foo Fighters, great. Kings of Leon, cool. Yeah, Coldplay could be that. It could also cross into pop as well. They had some major pop success. We could talk about Nirvana being alternative.
Yeah.
Fall Out Boy.
Fall Out Boy,
One of
very
the
cool.
one of the things you'll notice is that as Chrissy is saying, there's a lot of bands that fall into a lot of different categories, and a lot of that actually has to do not as much with the writing of the song as the production,
Yeah.
the instrumentation on the recordings, and also what they do live. If you put a slide guitar on a song that's normally a pop song, all of a sudden it could sort of go into the country world or folk. If you put, what else? Like,
Yeah, if you put, an electronic, 808 kind of beat on what maybe was just a straight ahead pop song, it might have a little bit more of an R&B flavor or a more emotioning bass line.
but at its core, the song itself doesn't really quite have a genre yet. It kind of remains to be seen.
And that is a great example of a mark of a really good song. A really good song could be done in any of these ways. And sometimes you'll hear a song that a country artist did it, but then this like pop artist did it, but then this like old school jazz guy did it too. That's a mark of a great song. Okay, we're gonna get to stuff like that. Those are all really, really great examples, you guys.
How about like when two artists from different genres cross together, like Nelly and Tim McGraw
Yep.
did?
Yep.
That song was good.
Yeah, that's a really interesting thing that artists do. I think also to keep what they're doing fresh, because if a country artist is just like, okay, I'm just known for this is what I do, and then a hip hop artist or an R&B artist is like, okay, this is what I do, I'm known for this, and they bring their forces together in the music business, they're going to be able to cross radio genres, they're going to be able to cross over into different listening audiences. It's going to expand their career. So it's a good creative move, and it can be a good business move as well. And of course, as you guys know, the big line that divides, there's the music and there's the music business. And they are very different things. We can talk all about that too, as time's going on. Up until this point, do you have any questions that we can answer for you? Cool. All right, so let's go on to writing music. All right, so we just talked about the style that you're writing in. Those are some great examples. So let's talk a little bit about song form. Ari and I just played a song of our own, so let us tell you a little bit about the forms of those songs, when you're kind of creating what is the form. Yeah. Say again? Oh, you want to know what that is, right? I skipped that, thank you. Anybody know what that means?
Keep it simple, stupid.
Holla, yeah, that's right. You can replace that with sweetie, whatever, if you don't want to be mean. But yes, that is it. Keep it simple. There's some great songs in the world that are super complicated, and I love them. But are you likely to get a cut on the radio with that? Probably not.
I think, this is also a personal preference kind of thing, because if you want to write for yourself and you don't care about your audience, you just want to write something that appeals to you, but it doesn't matter with the audience, then you can write any kind of song you want. We're more focusing today on songs that will appeal to certain kinds of audiences, or maybe lots of different kinds of audiences. And that's one of the things you have to think about when you're about to write a song. What kind of audience do I want this to appeal to? If I'm writing a folk song, for instance, you may not want to have certain elements, certain musical elements that you would find in something that's classical or R&B. You want to sort of focus your attention on those kind of listeners, the people that might like Bob Dylan and Joni Mitchell and people like that. So you have to think about that as you're writing your song.
Sure. Yeah. All right, so getting into the song form. lots of different forms of a song, you know? And again, there's no real rules. You just, whatever you're doing, you want to make it good. So you could have a verse, chorus, bridge song form. We'll talk about that. A verse, refrain, a verse, a pre-chorus, a chorus. Up to this point, does anybody have any questions of?
Do you guys know what these terms mean?
What we're talking about?
Verse, chorus, bridge.
Right?
Everybody have a pretty good idea what that means?
Most memorable part of a song, what would you say that would be?
The chorus.
The chorus. Some people call it the hook. They're interchangeable. Hooks don't always have to be the chorus or the even the words too. They can be in the music, but we'll get to that.
Right.
But yeah, okay. So you want to write an amazing chorus, and you want to build something around that chorus. So can we go back to the example of your song that you played for us?
Right.
So Ari's song, it's called Dead End Driving. Yeah.
You mind if I voice record?
Oh no. I'm ready. Ari's song is called Dead End Driving, and can you play the first four
Yeah,
lines
the
for us?
very beginning of the song, this is what I'm playing. Can anybody identify, just from that, some sort of musical hook that they hear, some sort of melody that they, even though I'm not singing yet? Yeah.
Dun, dun, da, 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 da,
Right,
dun.
okay. So that was, for instance, for me, that was the first thing that came to me for this song. That was the thing that came out of thin air. I wasn't sitting here with my guitar. I just kind of thought of that. And again, everybody has a different way to do it. But that's the first thing that came to mind, and I knew that that was going to be a musical hook that would come back, not just at the top of the song, but in other places. So I chose to start my song just with the guitar by itself, and then I go, dead and driving in the dark, we don't know what we're headed for, like lighters flicking off sparks, we've been counting on a little more. So I'm constantly reinforcing that hook, going back to it. Dead and working every day, wondering how we're gonna get through, and the time we're gone, we don't wanna play along just to make do. And then I go somewhere else from there. But that is, you know, in the first 30 seconds of the song, I've already done the da 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 like 5-6 times.
We're like cramming it down your throat, right? Why is that? Because you gonna remember it.
Right. It's
Gonna remember it.
right. And once I knew I had something that, and we'll talk about what, you know, ideas that if you know your idea is good, chances are it's something that even without trying, you're going to remember it at least hours later, if not days later. You'll remember that you did that. You don't need to go back to your voice recorder and be like, oh yeah, I did that. It's just like in your head when you get in the shower in the morning, you're like, oh, I remember that line. That's when you kind of know you have something good to work with.
Exactly. I want to expand upon that example. This is a song of mine that I approached, oddly enough, in a similar. I didn't know that I was doing this, but it's a very similar approach that Ari was talking about. So here's how this song starts. That's before I even sing. Do you hear anything in the music in there that's sort of like a melody that you remember?
Right.
That's the thing, right? So I'm playing that right off the top. That's the information I'm giving the listener, right? Here's my first verse. I leave the light on when you're not home. Somehow it makes me feel a little less alone. Same thing, right? I'm just singing what I played off the top.
Now, what is a characteristic of both that musical hook and my musical hook? What I hear is that they're pretty simple. They're pretty universally. People are gonna hear that even if they're not necessarily musical people. You were saying that you're not, whatever. I mean, you are, you aren't. It doesn't really matter. You kind of know what works for your ear, what you like. Both of those hooks are like, which we was talking about with the KISS method, keep it simple, stupid. You know, both of us are capable of writing more complex stuff than that, but it may not appeal to everybody. So we're trying to think about when we're writing the song, when we're coming up with ideas, is this going to appeal to a mass audience? Is a 5-year-old who's sitting in this classroom right now going to be able to go da 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 da? And chances are they are, because it's a simple line. And that's kind of the mark of a good hook, is that you're going to have something that is just recognizable, that really anybody of any age and any musical ability, they're going to know what it is. They're going to like hearing it.
Yeah, and you might say to yourself, well, how do you do that? How do you know it's good? How do you, what's the formula? The thing is that whether you play instruments or not, just as the way the human brain works, the way the ears and the mind work, right? There's certain things that are attractive to our ears and attractive to our minds, and you'll hear it all over pop music. You'll hear it all over hooks. It's tension notes and release notes. It's certain kinds of phrases and melodies. You hear them everywhere. For example, this song that I just played, right? If I had played you, could you sing that back to me? Could you just sing that back? No, that was
Yeah, right. I mean, you kind of can, but it's
Kind
not
of,
as,
right?
doesn't stick as well.
right. So same thing again. Here's. Right? Cool. That was a lot of notes and okay.
There's
but
nothing wrong with
there's
that.
nothing wrong with it, right?
But if you want to have an audience that's, a more universal audience, there's going to be more people who are able to identify that. You're gonna want something that's a little simple.
So if I play, does that stick with you a little bit more? It sticks with me a little bit more. And the musical reasons why aren't really important, but your ear is gonna tell you. Your brain's gonna tell you, like, I can latch onto that a little more. So that's what we're looking for. That's the kind of stuff that we're looking for when you're trying to find your melodies. So we were talking about song forms. So you can start a song with a verse and go into a big chorus. Great. You want to get to your chorus. Don't let it go. Don't let the song go too long without getting to that chorus. You just want to get to it. Does that kind of make sense? A lot of great pop songs that we could talk about. Somebody throw me out a great pop song that you like that's on the radio right now, or just like that was a big hit. Any example you got?
Elastic Heart by Sia.
Oh, I don't know that one that
You know
well.
that one?
No.
No chandelier.
Yeah. Give me another
I've
one.
got thick skin and an elastic heart.
Oh, yeah.
No.
Cool. I don't know that song that well.
I can't feel my
No,
face.
not
I
that
can't
well.
feel my face.
Well, chandelier, I guess, but that was my
Right.
favorite.
Right.
Yeah. That's a good example of the first hook you hear in that song in the melody, even before the I can't feel my face when I'm with
Oh,
you.
yeah, that's what
What do you hear before that? Yep. Yes.
yeah.
And then it goes in. She's not even right?
It's like a build-up.
Right?
Kind of reminds me of Michael Jackson's Off the Wall, like the beginning,
Yep.
like you already start.
Right.
It already
Absolutely.
starts.
Yeah. That thing, yeah. Which is a musical hook, right away.
For sure. But when he goes into that line, that that's building up, right? It's coming up.
Yeah.
It's a little tension and a little release, and it's what? It's simple. And he repeats it. Sticks with us. And then he goes into the chorus. It's
Which
like
of course is really simple too. Da, 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 da. I mean,
simple, right? It's got a good beat.
right.
All the elements are there. All right, cool. Does anybody have any more questions before we move on about the song format, like a verse and a chorus versus a verse refrain, or
You guys know what refrains and bridges are?
Hook, refrain, can you elaborate more on that?
yeah,
refrain?
Fields of Gold is a good example. Do you guys
Yeah.
know the song Fields of Gold by
Have you heard
Sting?
this? You remember me
Check it out.
Oh, yeah.
When the west wind moves among the fields of barley.
You ever hear this?
Yeah.
You forget Sting. If I the sky as we lie in fields of gold.
Second verse.
Will you stay with me? Will you be my love among the fields of barley? We'll forget the sun in this jealous sky as we lie in fields of gold.
So each verse ends with
A refrain. Da 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 da. It's
And
kind
it's-
of like a a summary moment at the very end of a bunch of music, of, you know, like a cycle of,
Yeah.
let's say a verse essentially.
Yeah.
Kind of reminds me of Daughters by John Mayer. Is that kind of like that?
That's actually a verse
That would
and
be
a
more of
chorus.
a
Oh, is that a
chorus
verse and
song,
a
I
chorus?
think.
Yeah, it's a verse chorus because he sings the verse,
Yeah,
then he
he's
goes
like-
into
yeah.
the chorus, which is Father speak
Right.
good, da 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 da. This song is basically, it's a bunch of verses, and each verse ends with the same tagline, as we walk in fields of gold.
Very common in folk music, actually, a lot of folk music. Like
Yes.
that. Yeah.
Could you just give me 2 more examples?
Of a
Sure.
verse refrain.
First refrain song would be,
All Along the Watchtower.
say it again?
Times they are changing.
Right, right.
Yeah.
That's a great example. Others around you have grown. Sooner or later you'll be drenched to the bone. If your love is worth saving, then you better start swimming or you'll sink like a stone. All the times they are
changing. Kind of
And
comes
every
back.
verse.
You hear that in that song. It comes back. The times they are changing, like 4 or 5 times. Very common in folk music.
It's a
to have
really common in folk
4 or
music.
5 verses, maybe even more, that just end in a refrain that's very singable. Da 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 da.
Yes, yes.
Would All Along the Watchtower be like that as well?
Let's see.
All Along the Watchtower it's a funny one because there
Well,
are
it-
a lot of verses.
Yeah, it starts with the musical of very identifiable, and so on. But I guess the melody. Oh,
Yeah, that song is a bunch of verses with the name of the chorus is just tucked in the top of a verse.
Oh, okay.
Know what I mean? So it's interesting because it's psychedelics too. Psychedelic rock is an interesting style of music because it sort of breaks a lot of the rules of popular song form. It's got its own set of rules, which makes it sort of psychedelic, which means sort of left of center. Like it's just odd and weird and different, and that's what makes it amazing.
Well, yeah, also one of the things about that song that I was just thinking about is
Yeah.
that it essentially doesn't stray from these chords the whole time. It's just a lot of variations on this, whether Jimmy is soloing over this or singing over it. Whatever he's playing, right? It's just this the whole way through. It's like a 5-minute song or whatever, but he's going, oh, watch that. This is actually a Bob Dylan song, by the way.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's why I
but-
asked, because it's
right.
a Bob Dylan song.
It is,
Yeah.
yes, it is. But in either case, he's basically doing a variation on the same 3 chords,
Yeah.
very simple to understand chords, and he's just cycling through different variations of the same thing, which is something that you will often find in pop songs. I mean, there may only be 3 chords in pop songs. Very, very common.
Yeah. Something I wanted to bring up to you guys, it's a really cool point. I read it in a book by Nile Rodgers. Everybody know who Nile Rodgers is? That's right. He created Chic and millions of other things too that we'll talk about. We watched the Grammys the other night. Did you see Gaga's performance of David Bowie? Guitar player that was playing with her with the white hat, that's Nile Rodgers. Lots to say about him, but he talks about in his book the DHM, the deep hidden meaning, okay? So that's a really cool concept that he has. He's written some great pop songs, great dance songs, but he's talking about put a deep hidden meaning in there. Don't make it so heady with the music and the lyrics that you can't relate. The average person, just the average listener can't just relate to it. Yeah.
Sorry, that abbreviated means deep hitting meaning.
Yes, deep
Yeah.
hidden meaning,
Thank you.
right? So, for example, a good song that would follow that's a Nile Rodgers song, and his formula was always like, if you want to have a killing pop song, start with the chorus. There's a lot of great pop songs that start with the chorus. For example, Good Times. Does anybody know the song Good Times by Chic? Good times.
Oh.
These are the good times. Right? Who knows it? Right? That's the chorus. Are the good times. Okay? Who sampled that bass line?
Everybody.
That?
Sugar Hill Gang.
Yeah, Sugar Hill Gang. Say it again? No, close though. We're gonna get
Very
to, I know
close.
what song you're talking
Yeah.
about. We're gonna get to that song too. Sugar Hill Gang, for what song?
How would you name the song?
You know it. Rapper's Delight.
Yes.
Right, okay, so start with the chorus. It's another great example of how to get your message across right from the top. A great chorus is a great way to start the song. They did that with Good Times. Nile Rodgers did that with We Are Family. Right? We
Relating-
are family.
Relating that to DHM.
Yes, Sister Sledge, right? What's the DHM in that? What's the deep hidden meaning? It's a pop song. What is that? Exactly. We are a family. What a great thing that every human being wants to relate to, right? There's deepness in that. There's a hidden deep meaning in that. And he did that on purpose because he knew that at every wedding and at every party and at every tough time someone was going through, if that song came on, it was going to make people feel like they wanted to connect to other people, right? It's kind of brilliant. So keep that in mind when you're writing your lyrics and you're writing your melody. It can be fun, it can be dance, it can be whatever, but put some sort of depth in there that's going to make people want to connect to it. It's a great, great thing to look for. Okay, so expanding on what we were just talking about, music hooks, musical hooks in songs. Okay, we've just started to talk a little about this. That bass line you were just playing,
Okay. Right.
right? Even if you don't know the song, you've heard it. We know what this. We know it's something, right? Okay. So then there's another song. You brought up a Queen example, right?
Another one by Sledge.
This one. Ever hear this?
Yeah.
What is it?
Ice,
No,
baby.
Right. Okay. That was the
Something before
song.
that.
Yeah.
That
No,
was
I know that. I know that.
Vanilla Ice and his people stole it from from Queen and David Bowie.
Right.
Right. Under Pressure. Super memorable bass line.
A lot of people have no idea what song they're even hearing when they hear that. They're just like, oh, I know that.
Right.
You know, it's just a super identifiable musical hook. Two
Yeah.
notes.
2 notes.
Very simple, just a little rhythm and 2 notes.
Yeah.
That's why keeping it simple is oftentimes the best way to go to get an audience.
So if you can find these elements when you're in your writing, a musical hook, a couple of notes in the bass line, a little piano thing, whatever it is, something that's simple and repetitive and memorable, and you bring those elements into your song, you're creating a bigger palette for your listener to recognize it and keep recognizing it and gravitate towards it over and over again.
Not to go too far back, but I know you were asking for other examples of
Oh, yeah.
the refrain. I just thought of another one right now. Do you know the Beatles song Yesterday? Yesterday, yeah, yesterday, every time I see so far away. Na, 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 here to stay. Oh, I believe in yesterday. Suddenly, it's all basically just verse and refrain, and then it
Yeah.
goes to another section, but the next section, why she had to go, that's not a chorus. That's not the most identifiable melody. Really, the identifiable melody is the I believe in yesterday, which is why you hear it the most in the song. Da, 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 da. That's the thing that he keeps coming back to. That's
Yeah.
the refrain.
Yeah. All right, so let's move on a little bit to,
Yeah.
I have one question. So
Yeah.
if you do that verse refrain, does
Yeah.
that mean that there's not a chorus in those songs? Maybe there's just a bridge but no chorus?
Generally, yeah. I mean, it sort of takes the place of a chorus. You know, I would say that it's almost like a mini chorus in itself. The refrain. You know, it might just be a 2 or 3 second long bit, but it is still something that you know, someone's going to wind up singing or humming the melody. And then the next section, like Chrissi was about to allude to, it's not really a chorus. It's actually more of a bridge when you think about that in Yesterday. Why she had to go, I don't know. She wouldn't say. It's almost that section is in order to get him back to another verse, which is what a bridge really is. That's its main goal.
yeah, I mean, in that song, I mean, it's almost a whole other section in and of itself. You know, sometimes in songwriting when they're breaking it down, they'll call sections an ABA format or an ABC, 3 different sections, instead of a verse or chorus or a verse refrain. And I think, for example, like another good Paul McCartney would be Blackbird.
Right.
So Blackbird always ends with the, yeah.
Yeah, it's oh my love.
You were only waiting for this moment to arrive. We're gonna hear that several times in the song. There's other sections in the song, musical sections in the song, that are always kind of roping us back into getting to this again. And it's a huge musical hook.
There's a lot of hooks in all over the melody, especially in that one.
Yeah.
Because you also remember da 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 da. That's pretty easy to remember as well, even if you're not that musical. And then obviously the end of it. You were only waiting for this long. Pretty simple line.
Yeah. Yeah, so having those hooks all over your song, or as much as you can, it's great. The more you have them, the better. And they don't have to be complicated. It can be really simple. You know, the Beatles, Paul McCartney and John Lennon may be considered some of the greatest songwriters ever. And a lot of what they wrote was very simple. Super memorable, simple.
Can I ask, do you really think it was simple because of the time that they made it? You understand what I'm asking you? Like,
Sure, yeah.
I think if you look at it now, I can see how you could say it's simple, but I don't think it was simple when it was done.
Yeah, give me an example of what you mean, like a song maybe you're thinking of.
Well, I'll tell you, Sgt. Pepper was not a simple song.
Absolutely, you're right.
You know.
So I think the Beatles at that point had gotten to a place where they were sick of touring. They couldn't deal with the audience screaming at them anymore. They wanted to make something really creative and inventive.
Yeah.
And they kind of went into a headier place at that time.
Right, but in my opinion, I think maybe what you're touching on also is production.
The recording technique.
That recording, I mean, really, that Sgt. Pepper is Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. That's not particularly complex in itself, but I think the instrumentation and the way they presented those chords, the arrangements, were particularly unique in that time, which is why.
That's what I'm coming at. What I'm saying is, because it never existed before,
Right.
at that time,
Right.
That's why I don't consider it simple, because
Yeah.
I consider
Right.
it complex.
I hear you.
Because now we'll hear it as, because it's commonplace, people take the formula, they've done stuff with it.
Yeah.
And I'm not a Beatles aficionado. I become one because everybody plays it. But everything you've played so far, to me, is not simple.
I hear
You know, I think of all the Beatles stuff to me is very complex because it was the first time it was being done.
Right. Well, I think what I would say to that is again, like if I played you, just me and the guitar, the Sgt. Pepper's song, and just played it kind of with an arrangement that's very straightforward, just the guitar and me. Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. Sat back in that band. So to me, it's like, yes, that was a good song, and I think the uniqueness was more about the way they presented those musical ideas, and not so much about what the song would sound like, just stripped down to nothing. You know, you could, and that it kind of goes back to my earlier point about like how you can dress it. You can dress up a song in a lot of different ways with different kinds of instrumentation and different arrangement ideas, but the difference between song and arrangement is it's a huge thing in music and the music business too. There's a lot to say about that, because there's many musical lines in songs that are kind of on the border of whether they're technically part of the song or part of the arrangement. And as a songwriter, we both know this, that if you arrange a song, you actually monetarily, it's not going to really make a difference to you if the song gets played on the radio or if the song gets sold in the store, whatever it is. But if you actually write the melody, da 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 da, that is the thing that technically is what makes up the song, as well as the lyric. You write the melody and the lyric. For those of you who don't know, that's really what makes up the song. The arrangement, everything else around it can be amazing and awesome and super ear-catching, but it's technically not part of the song itself. Technically, it's a separate venture altogether.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
I hope I answered
Yeah.
that.
No, it's great. No, I just like how you know like 1,000 songs already. Okay.
She knows even more than I do,
It's
actually.
like, oh yeah, okay. That's awesome. I hope my crew understands that. Thank you.
All right, let's move on to talking about writing the melody. We've talked a little about that already. We've talked about tension and resolution, right? Tension meaning a note. If I'm going to play a song like da 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 da, does that need to be finished? Where does it need to go? Does it sound good if I go here? Da 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 da. Right? If I just da 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 da. If I stayed on that tension, you're gonna be like, what? What's up? We don't know why, but it wants to come down, right? So looking for that kind of thing in your melodies, tension and resolutions. You hear them in a million songs all over the place. It's everywhere. These are things that we were talking about, like the brain, the mind. Why does the mind like this stuff? You know, there's a whole like physics thing behind all of that. You know, what's attractive, what pitches are attractive to the human mind. It's super cool and complex and weird, and we don't have to get into any of that, but it exists.
But this is a. Oh, sorry.
That's okay. Go ahead.
When you're in that creative zone process,
Yeah.
does this actually come to you? Like, are you like thinking like, oh, that they're gonna know that one, or is it more like after?
Well,
like
yeah,
you
that's
intentionally do
with-
it. Or are you
Yeah, I mean, for me, when
if
I'm
it sticks
writing,
with you, then you kind of know it will resonate with other people.
yeah.
But even you listening to it now, like I was about to talk about that song that won the best song of the year.
Take me into your loving arms.
Right. So if it's that Ed Sheeran. Right. If Ed Sheeran or Chrissi in this case stays on. Take me into your loving arms, or something like that.
Right? You know.
It doesn't quite. Cause she's here and the chord should be there. You should come back home. It's sort of like a way to think about it.
And whether you
want
study,
it it's resolved. It's resolving the tension. Even the record, the Alabama Shakes record. You know that. Don't wanna fight. D minor. I'm playing it. D minor. Don't wanna fight no more. Right. To don't wanna fight no more.
does that come back down?
If she stayed on, don't wanna fight no more. Don't wanna fight no more. I don't wanna fight no more.
That's cool.
It kind of leaves you hanging.
Know what I'm saying?
So you want it to resolve to something. It doesn't have to be don't wanna fight no more. It could be don't wanna fight no more. Don't wanna fight no more. It could be that. That's one way of resolving, and we're getting into a little more musically technical things here. But there are certain notes in a scale as you're singing and playing a song. That are leaving you hanging and you want to finish them, and there are certain ones that make you feel like it's resolved, whether you're not you're a musician. Like when you're hearing that right now, I think you know what I'm talking about. You know, those of you, even if you don't play an instrument, your ear is going to hear that as, man, something needs to happen, something more needs to happen.
Yeah, it's in your body, it's in your guts. Like humans, that's why, I mean, music existed before we evolved into people. You know, music is always a part of the universe. And so we've just tapped into something that was already there. But this stuff, that tension and that release stuff, you're gonna feel it. You don't have to study that in music school to know. You're gonna know when something's like off. You know when something's out of tune. You know it. And so you can break down in the study of like why and like whatever, and that's cool. Definitely do that. The more you know, the better. But ultimately know that this stuff is in you already. It's just figuring it out. Yeah.
It's like whenever you hear like a good hook or a good chorus, and then like when it resolves, when it like finishes, you can feel that feeling in your gut.
Sure.
It's like, oh my god, it feels
Yes.
so good.
Sure.
Yeah.
Right.
But
Absolutely.
the songwriter was thinking of you when they wrote that song.
Yeah,
You know
so
what I mean?
one
It's-
of the magic moments of creating a song
Yeah.
is being able to do that. That's what you want to do. We took just because we touched on that Ed Sheeran song.
Yeah.
You know, we've laughed at this a little bit, and we'll talk about this a little bit more as time goes on in this workshop. But you want to be careful when you're writing. It's a fine line. It's a fine line because every chord and every note has been used and everything has been said. Okay, let's get that all out there right now. Okay, so maybe you could even go as far to say as nothing is original. I've heard people say that. I don't really want to believe that because I think there's always more to be created. Okay, but this Ed Sheeran song, for example. Take me into your loving arms.
Sounds an awful lot like.
Right? Then I have my beating heart. Tell me if you know this. I've been really trying, baby. Trying to hold back these feelings for so long. You know that song?
Yeah.
Okay?
Wow, that's great.
Is it the same thing? No.
Yeah, this is it's kind of up to interpretation.
This is a tough one.
The answer is yes.
Right. Well, yeah.
But let me explain to you.
Leads to the other.
Let me
How about that
explain.
one?
Let me explain to you why let me explain to you why in a court of law they would lose that case, right?
Unfortunately.
It's a drag. It sucks. But the thing is that what you're hearing that's the same is this. Right? Chord progression.
This is going back to what I was alluding to before about what constitutes a song.
Right.
You have the melody and the lyric. When she plays that on the piano, you're hearing the chords and the rhythm. It has
Exactly.
nothing to do with the melody and the lyric.
You can't win that
So
legally.
in a court of law, Ed Sheeran didn't do anything wrong.
Right.
Whoever wrote the song, I don't know if he wrote it or somebody else wrote it for him or whatever. But technically, they have not committed any kind of, crime.
But the thing is that we as listeners hear it and we think, that's whack. That's lame. He stole that vibe. He can get away with it though. So all we're trying to encourage you to do is be careful when you walk that line and when you're writing music. It might remind you of something. You can't steal a melody and you can't steal a lyrical line, but you want to be careful of where
By
where
the same
you're going.
token, though, we would be lying to you if we said that there weren't things that we've come up with in the last 15 years of writing songs that were like, man, that sounds a little like that other song that we like. That's okay.
It's okay.
That's going to happen.
It's a line you
You're
gotta walk.
definitely going to, quote unquote steal, but not really steal. You know what I mean?
Inspired.
It's gonna happen.
Let's get some questions.
Can you play with that intentionally? Like for example, the weekends.
Yep.
In the night she hears. That's. Billie Jean is not mine.
It's similar, very similar.
And
Yeah,
he when he talks
absolutely.
about writing songs, he's like he went and
Right, but interesting. What's the Billie Jean? The tune that has the same bass
Bass
line?
line.
Before Billie Jean.
Yeah. You're talking about boom, boom, boom.
Yes.
That's Billie Jean.
Yeah, but
it's
before that.
also
Talking about Beat It?
yeah. It's
No,
it's a
no.
different artist that has it. It's not the same. It's close though.
Very close.
Yeah. It's
Was it Bootsy Collins?
no. Is it James? Shoot, I don't remember. I'll think of it.
Somebody before.
Anyway,
Michael.
that bass line that's in Billie Jean is also a familiar bass line from something else. Go ahead.
I was also gonna give it another example of that. So Green Day's Basket Case
Uh-huh.
is also Pachelbel's Canon in D major.
Yes. There's a reason why
Right.
they can do that. Because I believe after a certain amount of years, certain music is considered what they call public domain. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Billy Joel has a bunch of songs that he actually borrowed from classical pieces that he credits in the liner notes. Credits Beethoven for a song that's on Innocent Man, called This Night. It's a beautiful song. It's the same chord structure and the same melody as Beethoven's Appassionata piece.
Right.
And he doesn't have to pay any money to the Beethoven estate because it's considered public domain at this point.
That is an interesting example you brought up, because you can, if you know, let's say you want to write songs, but you're not particularly, a musical person in that you don't really play an instrument, but you knew that that was a canon. You knew that the Green Day tune was a canon. You could start with the idea of, I'm going to write lyrics and melody to a canon, to something that is public domain. Like I can work with these chords, these. For those of you who don't know, those are the chords that make up that Green Day song, and also Pocket Bell's canon from I don't know how many centuries before that.
A million years.
Right. So you can, let's say you just, you feel like you're more of a lyric writer, or you want to focus on just the melody and the lyric, but you want to make sure that your chords don't run the risk of sounding like that Ed Sheeran tune. You may want to start there and work with that.
Exactly. Another example of
Blues.
what?
I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. That's a great point. I mean, the whole genre of the blues and what that is, that goes back a long time. Did you guys ever study or hear about Robert Johnson? He's considered one of the founding fathers of the blues. This goes back real far, like 20s and 30s, deep stuff. But through that genre, so many other things were born. Many things were stolen, credit not given. I mean, the music industry is plagued with tons of stuff like that. An example of an artist who has had huge pop success by taking public domain cuts and sampling them and building beats and music around them is Moby. Are you guys familiar with Moby? So Moby had this song that went, I think I know it. Oh Lord, ain't my trouble so hard. Know this one? Oh Lord, ain't my trouble so hard. Don't nobody know my trouble but God. Don't nobody know my trouble but God. Oh, and it keeps
It's all
going.
over the radio for those of you who
Do you
don't
guys,
know.
does that sound
Maybe
familiar to you
15
guys?
years ago, 10, 15
It was a
years.
huge hit, massive, huge, unbelievable. That is an old blues spiritual song that he found in a record bin somewhere that had never been used or sampled. He pulled it out, sampled it, built a musical beat around it, built piano around it, and because the sample was considered public domain, he didn't have to pay rights to another person. He collected all the money for that song, and that record went on to sell like 30 million copies. Yeah.
Just to add on to what you were saying,
Yes.
I learned that Barbara told me last semester that in that situation, it goes public domain,
Yep.
lifetime of the artist, and plus 75 years, so
Yep.
it'll be after, say if I'm the artist,
Yep.
it'll be my lifetime, and after I die, 75 years.
Right. Yeah.
That's
And
why
then
I'm glad that you guys bring it up, this kind of commitment.
Right, and
Yes,
if it hasn't been
exactly.
that much time, you got to give the songwriting credit to the other guy.
and monetary too. Yes.
So I just want to make sure I got this clear. Chords are basically like the sound, the noise that the guitar makes.
Yeah, these are chords, right?
And then the way you play them would be, in a sense, the rhythm.
Yeah, I mean, I could play like
That's the rhythm.
it's the rhythm. This is a different rhythm. All right, the melody is right, or let's get it on. That's the melody,
So
right?
then the melody is basically like the rhythm for the lyrics. Rhythm of the lyrics and the chords. The rhythm of the chords is like the melody for the lyrics.
The melody is essentially just the lead line that the singer is singing. You know, just whatever the singer is singing. If it's a pop song, it's a vocal. So, you know, da 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 da, right? Da 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 da. That's the melody. Whatever the singer is singing. You know what I mean? Yeah, that's it. It's like Ari was saying earlier, it's the melody and the lyrics that you can copyright. Those you can say, those are mine. That's where you want to watch out that you didn't steal it from someone else. There was a big case this year of oh it also is, no, I won't back down. Tom Petty.
Melody.
Right.
Right.
Tom Petty melody, straight
30
up,
years
straight
before.
away.
Right.
No way. He lost that battle and had to pay Tom Petty who knows how much money.
Right, so in that case, just real quick, I remember reading that Sam Smith claimed that he never heard the Petty tune before. And Tom Petty was nice about it, was like, okay, you never heard my song, fine, just give me credit. And he did.
Yeah.
And that was that. Sam Smith gave Tom Petty the
He had
credit.
to pay him.
Had to
Or
pay
you
him
still
a
paid him.
fortune.
Yeah.
And that was that.
Yeah,
Doesn't always work out that pretty.
yeah, that was a straight rip. There was no way. Yes.
In that case, Tom Petty himself was actually unaware that he was informed by his legal department after
Yeah.
they started litigating.
Right.
Yeah.
He probably didn't hear the song until
Yeah, he
got on
probably
the radio.
wasn't
It's
listening
like,
to
oh,
Top
I know that
40.
one.
Yeah, as soon as I heard it, I was like, get out of here.
Right.
There's no way they're going to get away
But then
with
you
this.
also had the Marvin
Gaye and
thing.
Robin Thicke incident, which
Right.
actually caused a huge upset because truly that song, that Marvin Gaye song, you guys know the Robin Thicke song we're talking about?
Blurred lines.
Blurred Lines, right? That actual song, that Marvin Gaye song, I like to go out to party alone there. Right, that melody was not in the Robin Thicke song.
Not at all.
It wasn't at all.
Everybody says that.
The vibe was the same though. There was this like cowbell stuff and party noises.
Yeah, but you can't count that. That's
See, that's
But
the thing.
that's arrangement.
That's why
So
it
this
was,
is- this
it
is
was
where
a
it
big
got-
upset.
Right, this is where it got super tricky because the verdict was not what it in our opinion and a lot of people's opinion, it was not what it should have been because technically the guy, yes, he totally caught the vibe, but it's not unlike Ed Sheeran with this other tune that we were talking about. He didn't take any lyric and he didn't take any melody.
Right.
He
Yet
just
they
took
still
the
won the
vibe.
court case, and the Marvin Gaye estate had to be paid by Robin Thicke.
Right.
And as an artist, as a musician, and as a lover of Marvin Gaye, I was like, sweet, screw you, Robin Thicke. But legally, it's kind of
It's opening the door
it's-
for a lot of stuff.
it's
that-
opening a
that-
can of worms. Yeah.
Yeah, it could be very tricky.
But the thing, you just said sometimes these things don't end as nicely. Now, with the Uptown Funk thing, right?
Yeah.
That really went, like, people didn't even hear what happened with that song. So, and that ended, like, really nice because now we went from having 2 songwriters to having 11,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So, and then it was funny because when I knew the Gap song, as soon as I heard Uptown Funk, I knew why I liked it.
Yeah.
And I just couldn't decide which period I was listening to. Like, was it Minneapolis or was it
Yeah.
New York, right?
Yeah.
But when I heard the hook again, and then I remembered, Oops Upside Your Head,
Uh-huh.
somebody else did too.
Yeah.
And like I said, then he went from 2 songwriters to 11.
Right.
Yeah.
So that was, but nobody even really heard that even happened.
Yeah, it kind of like, it didn't make a lot of mainstream
That
news.
song is like gigantic, but nobody.
Yeah.
It was nice. It wasn't like the Sam Smith thing.
Yeah.
Which I agree with you. I was like, why are people thinking this is the greatest thing ever?
Yep.
And you don't like Tom Petty. How could you do that?
Yeah. Yeah, and there was enough of a decades gap too that, 12, 13, 14, 18, 22-year-olds may not have known that Tom Petty song because we're far enough away from that Petty song that it's not on mainstream radio anymore.
You
And
better
so,
parents.
yeah, I know, right?
That's right.
The Uptown Funk thing was an interesting thing too. You mentioned it when that came out. I heard that and I was like, oh, Gap Band, right? Rick James, come on. And a lot of the younger generation is thinking that this is a new thing. So it's important. It's just songwriters. It's just important as a creator of music to know if something is hot and it's out and it's new. Like, know where it's being pulled from. If you want to create something contemporary, know where you're pulling from. Study the guys and the gals whose shoulders we're standing on, and they stood on people's shoulders too. It's the more knowledge you have of this stuff, the better your material is going to be, and the less likely it's going to sound like a watered-down ripoff of something awesome from the past, which is what you don't want to have happen. Go ahead.
But he said that there was 11 songwriters. I want to ask, how come now most songs are written by so much people as compared to before?
It's a great question.
Do you think there was other people included before they just weren't getting credited, or?
I mean, it's
There's a record
very
of 1,000 writers.
even it's pretty simple in that let's talk about maybe the 70s, okay? It was a great decade for singer-songwriters. Guys and gals with guitars, guys and gals with pianos. Simple, okay? Bands even too, equal. There was a lot of great songwriting stuff happening at that time. Coming out of the 60s when the singer-songwriter became the thing, you know, before the 60s it was like, you know, 1950s into early 60s, it was these guys in this building in New York called the Brill Building that like were writing songs and writing hits to turn over to artists. Artists weren't writing their own songs. You know, Carole King wrote, "Will you still love me tomorrow?" in the Brill Building and handed that over to the Shirelles.
Right.
That's how it worked. When the songwriters started writing their own songs at the bitter end, like Bob Dylan, Joni Mitchell, whatever, then it became a thing, like artists write their own songs. Okay. And it was simplified then. There wasn't a ton of production, not like we have now. There was no Pro Tools, there was no Logic, there was no none of that stuff. It was simple. It was instruments and some chords and music. And the songwriters were writing their own songs, maybe one or two together. Let's fast forward to today. We have so many tools. We have so much production tool, right? We've got these incredible programs. Who works on Logic or GarageBand or whatever? You know, you can do this stuff on your phone now. It's amazing. So you take somebody like Beyonce, let's say. Beyonce is a songwriter. She writes words and she writes melodies. But when she goes into the studio, all those people that are working in the production with her, that are in there creating the palette that will be the song that she is good. Let's talk about Crazy in Love, okay? Crazy in Love was a sample from, is it the OJ? It's a drum beat sample. Right there, you've got writers that have to be credited. You've got Beyonce that's credited. You've got the other producers that are in the room creating whatever they're doing on that track, they're getting songwriter credit. It's a different format now. The pop artist thing is just a different format because of the time.
I don't know if you know the song Beautiful Girls by Sean Kingston.
I don't know that song.
Okay, I think it was, they sampled, I don't know if you guys know, Stand By Me.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yep.
I noticed it like literally like last week. I was like,
Yep.
oh, that's right.
Probably had to credit, you know, as the writer of those guys who wrote Songwriting.
Yeah, for sure.
The other thing to mention about the songwriting and what constitutes you being a songwriter, in some cases it can literally be changing one word in a song.
Mm-hmm.
If I came to Chrissi and said, I've got this song and I think it's great, and she's like, you know, I think you could change the word great to excellent in your song.
That'll be 10% of your song, please.
That, 50%.
You can, yeah.
Technically, she's allowed 50% for just that.
You can claim that.
If I decide to take her
Yeah.
suggestion, which is my call. But
Yeah. So let's go back to the example of Beyonce. She's in a room with her people and her crew and her producers, and she brings something to the platform, and someone says that. Well, I think this word's going to work better there, and she's cool with it. Boom, writer credit. That's why you see all these people. It's just a different approach now than it used to be, and it's a lot more. It was the music business was a bit more of a loving environment years
yes,
ago.
but you do hear some bad stories even from the 70s,
Sure.
like the Graceland, the Paul Simon record.
Yeah.
You hear about all the African musicians who created these amazing textures and you know how they should have been credited, but apparently there was a lot of legal documentation that before the songs were even done, Paul Simon made sure that those guys were not going to get songwriting credit. And it was just this whole other side to things that a lot of the public doesn't know about, unfortunately, but
Yeah.
it happens quite often.
Yeah, for sure. Let's talk a little bit about words
Yep.
as we go on, lyric writing. So everybody here is familiar with writing lyrics. You all write a little bit here and there, whether it's poetry, lyrics, words, if maybe you're just getting started. What's the most common thing, I have this written on the paper, that we do with the words when we're writing lyrics or poetry? The most common thing. Right. Rhyming. Okay, it makes a song memorable, it makes it easier to digest. You're always going to hear it in songs. There's very few songs that don't have rhymes, as an example, okay?
It also, you know, as far as rhyming, you don't have to rhyme the end of a phrase. It could be something in the middle, it could be something at the very beginning of a line. It doesn't have to be, won't you stay with me, you're all I need. you know, the ease, yes, that is the rhyme, but it doesn't have to be there. You could put it somewhere else.
Yeah.
But either way, it's a lyrical hook to
Yeah.
do something like that.
Piggybacking on the Tom Petty example with the Sam Smith example, that chorus, I won't back down, I won't back down, da-da-da-da, pushing me around, won't
Right.
back down. So we went down, down, round, down.
Right.
That's a real great hook. That's an example of repeating your first lines a couple of times to solidify your point, bringing in a rhyming word, and then ending it with that first point again. There's so much that can be talked about lyric writing. There's so many things between metaphors and diphthongs and vowels and iambic, and there's just so much. If you want a really great piece of material to work with in learning more about lyric writing, I highly recommend this book. It's called Writing Better Lyrics. It's written by Pat Pattison. I've read it 10 times. I read it once every couple of years. It's a great tool to have in your arsenal. It's going to help you jog your mind with things to think of. Yeah.
Sorry, is that a book as well? The Artist's Way?
This is another book, yeah, that
Sorry.
we wanted to recommend to
Sorry.
you as well. Yeah, and we'll tell you about it. For lyrics, definitely check this out. Writing Better Lyrics, you can download them now. They may have them at Barnes & Noble, any kind of bookstore, easy order on Amazon.com.
Yep.
Does anybody have any other questions about lyrics or words? Since it's such a broad topic, I'd love to zone in on some stuff that you're specifically maybe thinking about in your lyric writing, if any.
Maybe we can get into avoiding cliches a bit.
Yeah.
We can talk a little bit about that, because that's also a very common thing, even for us.
Yeah.
Well, maybe I'll just talk about myself first, but like I said, usually a musical idea will come first to me, and then the next thing out, I'll start to try to write lyrics, and generally it's cliche after cliche. If I look back and I'm like, man, like this has been said a million times. I need to find an angle.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about that angle. Yeah.
For example, I can give you a personal example of mine that I recently worked on, and then maybe Ari will give a personal example of his. I played you a little piece of the music a little while ago that went like this. Okay? So the name of that song is called Lonely Light. That is my lyrical hook. I was trying to think about it. Oh God, have I heard that term before? Have I heard the term lonely light before? Maybe it's out there, I'm not sure. It wasn't coming to my mind. I liked it because of the double L, the lonely and the light. Right? What's that called?
Alliteration.
Thank you. Alliteration is a fantastic tool to use. We
Dead End
use
Drive.
it, Dead End Drive. We use it all the time.
Yeah.
We use it all the time. To take an object, right, and to find a word to describe your object. I heard a line recently in a song about a way a woman was being described as having credit card eyes. I thought that was really cool. Like I never heard those two things put together. Finding things like that, finding ways to describe something that's different from the same old way that we always hear it. Little bits here and there in your song could be really helpful.
They don't have to be complex words either.
Not at all.
And sometimes you can think about. I mean, I just thought of that Beatles song Yesterday again, and you know the I Believe in Yesterday. That is something that everybody can understand what that means, but it's not really a cliche, you know, because it's not something that you hear every day, but it is something that like immediately people are like, oh man, I know what that means. Like you're looking for stuff like that. You're looking for lines. You're trying to come up with lines that have a whole lot of meaning and sound familiar. Not unlike the music too. You're trying to come up with stuff that sounds kind of familiar but still has an originality to it. If you said I believe in you, that's a cliche. That's kind of like obvious. You probably don't want to do too much of that. But if you have an angle of I believe in something that, you know, fill in the word that kind of makes it a little more interesting. In that case, he made it yesterday.
Yeah.
And it made sense.
That's a good one, and it's a tough one because I believe in has been done a bunch of times in music.
Right.
So
I believe in miracles.
I believe in you and me.
Yeah. Right. Exactly.
Yeah. There's a bunch. So finding a new way to say something that's been said before. It's a great exercise in expanding your lyrical palette. Cool. Any other thoughts or questions on lyric writing before we move on to
Copywriting?
Say again?
Copywriting?
Yeah, you want to copyright your stuff for sure. There's several ways to do it. The old school way is sending it into the Library of Congress.
Which is still a recommended thing to do, but from my understanding of it is that as soon as you make a recording,
Which everybody can do now.
right, of your song, then technically you have a legal imprint that like you did this. If somebody came along and said that they did, that they created your song, you have that as long as it has like a date on it, But the really the way you're supposed to do it is get a form from the Library of Congress, and you can have one form for 10 songs or one form for one song, and then you send it in, and there's a small fee associated with it, but then it's there, and that's like the foolproof way. You're definitely not going to have a problem with that.
I would say at this point now you don't need to worry or stress about doing that too much at this point. You guys, because it's kind of a lot of work and it costs money and stuff. If you can make everybody have a recording device on their smartphone or something on a laptop, or even at the college, there's probably ways to, in the library or something you can record. You can make a voice memo. There's a new app that just came out called Music Memos.
Yeah.
It's really good for making little quick voice memos.
I'd also recommend that if you're writing lyrics and you're like co-writing with somebody or whatever, you're sharing them, just make sure your name and the date you wrote it is on top of the thing.
Exactly.
Just in case. You just want to be safe and take little steps like that, just to make it clear, whose stuff is whose. But again, when you are co-writing with somebody, and I gave that example of her changing one word, she is allowed 50% of the song for changing that one word. If she's a nice person, she will say, you know what, I only wrote that one word, I'm only going to take 2% of the song, and which also happens very often. But you have a lot of people who are like, no, I'm taking 50%. That's
Depends on
legally, they're
it depends
allowed
on
to
the
do it.
deal.
Don't you have to sound like a contract that says that you wrote that word though?
Well, it doesn't really matter that there's a contract that says that she wrote that word necessarily. It's just that if there's an understanding that there's two writers, immediately it's 50-50 unless you guys work it out and then have a contract that says she's entitled to 6% or whatever. You have to make up that contract in that situation, and every situation is different, and it really kind of depends on the person you're writing with, whether they're going to be cool about it or not.
Right.
We've both written quite a few songs with other people, and generally it is 50-50, but occasionally a situation comes along where you're like, man, I wrote a lot of that. Or, you know what, I didn't really do much of this. I'm just going to take
It's
it.
it's subjective. Go ahead.
What if in that situation, and then the song that you guys write, that she put one song as one word as an input, and that song becomes really big. And at first she's like, oh, I'll just get 2%, but then after she saw that it becomes big, she's cheesy.
That's why you want to get everything in writing up front.
Yeah,
right.
exactly.
Because if I did agree to that, and then it became a huge hit, and I agreed to only take 2% when I could have had 50, it legally wouldn't hold up in court.
It's a very annoying.
You two have a written contract with each other before you
it's
guys
called being
started?
married.
That's why.
Wait, what? Really?
Right.
Oh, so you guys are very
You're
professional
right.
about
I should
it.
have these contracts.
You guys are very. I've been blowing kisses the whole time. You guys would all know.
I wrote a song. We have a project, and I wrote a song for it, and agreed. I agreed that I'm going to give him. I'm going to give him half of the credit for it because we're in a group together. So McCartney and Lennon did that. There's so many songs that Paul McCartney wrote that John Lennon didn't write, but they agreed that everything's split 50-50. That was their deal.
But generally speaking, before you start working with anyone, you want to have some kind of written something.
I don't think it's something you have to say before you even start, but I think by the end of the day of writing or the hours that you put in with them, it is a good idea to just hey man, let's just get this straight right off the bat. It seems like we've been doing this together the whole time, so this is 50-50, right? Cool. And once you have that understanding, if you want to put it in writing, it's a good idea. If you don't do that, then all you really have is their word in that moment. So, and again, if they only wrote one word to the song, legally it's 50-50 at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really quick, I know we're running out of time for this first session,
Yeah.
so I want to, we wanted to ask you guys if you guys are into this. For the next time that we meet, we want to give you guys an opportunity to apply some of the stuff that we've talked about today and write something. If anybody wants to volunteer to show it next time, you can, you don't have to. But we thought we would give you a phrase to work with, okay? So we decided that the phrase is going to be, time is gone. So if you want to make a note of time is gone, say
What's
it
that?
again. It's not on there.
It's
We
not.
just
It's
thought
not
of
on
it.
there. If you gotta.
Does
need a
it?
pencil?
Yeah. Write it
pencil?
down if you need pencils. Here's a pencil you can pass around. Put it in your phone, whatever you want. And again, this is not mandatory. If you're not feeling it, don't worry about it. If you want to, take this phrase and write something around it. It could be a verse and a chorus. It could be an entire song. This could be the title of your song. This could just be a line in your song somewhere.
It could also be something that simply inspires music and you don't even write lyrics to it. Whatever it is that you can make of that, great. Bring it in next month, share them if you want, we'll talk about it a little more.
Yeah.
In the meantime, she wrote down a couple different books there, she mentioned one of them. The other one, you want to give it quick, just a line about that other one?
Yeah. About The Artist's Way?
Yeah, The Artist's Way.
The Artist's Way is a great recommendation for a book that any creative person should just have in their library. I have it right here. This is an incredible tool to keep your creative brain flowing, because sometimes when you wake up and you know you should be creating something and you just like can't get a jump, you need something to knock you in the head and get you going.
It's a muscle.
It is. It is a
You're
muscle.
exercising a muscle when you're writing something.
Absolutely.
It's absolutely something that the more you do it, the easier it kind of gets to get going into it, the more you kind of learn what strengths and weaknesses you have and where you have to grow. And
Yeah.
if you don't exercise it, you're not going to get much better.
So having a book like this is something that you will refer to on and off again, maybe your whole life. I've had this in my life for 15 years.
Yeah.
I'll have it in my life forever. Definitely check it out. Yeah.
Have you guys worked with Pat Patterson's Songwriting Without Boundaries?
Yes.
Sense Bounce?
Yes. Also great.
You feel like it comes naturally in your writing now, after like working on it for so long?
It's something that I apply for me personally. 'Cause,
Tool.
yeah, I worked with him when I was in college. He was a
Oh, you went
teacher
to
of
Berkeley?
mine. Yeah.
Oh.
So I learned that right away,
Yeah.
and that's always sort of been in my psyche. So that's another great one. Songwriting Without Boundaries.
When's the
Highly
next
recommend.
workshop?
Say again?
The date for the
The
next
day
workshop?
of the next workshop is March 16.
Yeah.
I believe it's the same time, same place.
Yeah.
And I also, I'm sure you guys will have questions as we go on. Even if you think of things during the month, you can either ask us that day, or we both are reachable through email if you have specific songwriting questions.
Yeah.
We're happy to give you our email addresses if you want to, any kind of advice on anything.
Yeah, are there any other questions that you guys have or thoughts before we wrap up today? Yeah.
Where did you guys go to school?
I went to Berklee College of Music in Boston and studied there for 3 years before I moved to New York.
And I went to NYU and didn't study music in school, but came from a musical family. So.
Oh. No, I was gonna actually recommend it for music, but you said you didn't take it for music.
For music schools?
Yeah, no, I was gonna ask if you would recommend NYU for music, but you
cool.
didn't take it.
Well,
Clive
it is-
Davis.
I know. I
Clive
actually-
Davis School of Music.
Yeah, it's really
we have
good.
people that we know that work there, and it's a great program over there. We can talk a lot about that next time too.
And Bandcamp and Instagram, all that stuff.
Instagram,
That's what
Bandcamp,
it's
yeah. I'll write our stuff down on the board, so as you guys are
Alright, that's a
gathering,
good idea.
take it down.
Thank
Thank you
you,
guys
guys.
so much. Thanks for doing this.